Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
Thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. 'Tis a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 347. Wow, that's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of numbers for this show. It's a lot of numbers in general, but I don't know. There's something about the mid 300s that's really starting to seem daunting to me somehow. Very excited to do this. I guess it's a special edition. Is it a quarantine edition anymore? I guess the quarantine's over, right? That's what I used to call them. Whatever. It's just bonus Protonic. Monday night Protonic. Monday. Mr.Phylzzz. So Clinton and Danny of Mr.Phylzzz coming up tonight. I'm very excited to talk to them. They got a new record called Fat Chance. They had a great one called Cancel Culture Club that came out last year as well. Doing a thing or two, going on tour with Melvins and Boris. That's all exciting stuff. Very excited to talk to them, have them onto the show for the first time. But, of course, before we get into that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer that has been touring and recording for 23 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but may not be household names. This is episode 347. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free, always, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will gladly achieve that goal. If you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, and even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. If you want to be darn nice, not just nice, but darn nice. That's in the copy, by the way. I put darn nice in the copy because that's just that kind of guy I am anyway. Then go ahead and do that. But for right now, let's talk to Clinton and Danny, Mr.Phylzzz. Welcome. I think this is a better view. I think this is
cool. I like this.
This is more Brady Bunch and less Hollywood Squares. So I'm here for that. Welcome. It's great to have you. Y'all have you got a busy fall. This is pretty crazy. Fat Chance. This is the new one. You recorded this at Electrical, right?
Yeah.
How was that? I mean, that's pretty good, especially for drums.
It's literally the reason we went.
Yeah.
Just to get you've been there, yeah?
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, I've never recorded there, but
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, the drum tone. I'll let Danny talk on it, but that was really the biggest reason we went. We just wanted sick drums, and we got them.
It's hard to think of a place that has just a better resting drum sound, basically. Danny, how did it feel when you just unleash for the first time? Was that pretty cool?
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've recorded at Electrical before with my very first band, so I kind of know how incredible the drum sound is. But with the songs and everything that Flyzzz puts together, it's super fun. It was just very full and balanced sounding, even completely unmixed. It was a dream.
So now, if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, this was either kind of like shortly after a tour, kind of like during a tour, like it was the timeline gets kind of squishy for me. But Clinton, can you fill me in on the timeline exactly of when you recorded this? But it wasn't that long ago. I know that.
No, it was really quick. Tom put out the record, Penitent Curtis, like a copy of it, and that copy of that record basically gave us the money to do this record. So when we had that opportunity to just take that money and dump it, I mean, as soon as Tom handed me the check, I told Tom, I was like, I'm going to make another record. So
right, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and we literally, I mean, Tom sent me the check and we literally went to Electrical Audio and we were like, we have this much money. How much can we buy with this much?
Well, it's like going to a grocery store and be like, what can I get for $13.68? Because that's what I got in my pocket. Yeah.
Literally. And it took, it got us 4 days. And we were like, okay, well, we're just going to do this record in 4 days. And exactly what you said. I mean, we went in, it was right after we got done with some shows. So we were kind of hot off that. We went in, we tracked everything and mixed it in 4 days, 10-hour sessions.
Right.
I handed it over to Tom, and then Tom immediately sent it out to be pressed. So it was quick.
Wow, service with a smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's notable too because I think that the last record, the Cancel Culture Club record, it's great, but it's definitely not a band in a room kind of sound. Like it's like a stacked with crazy, obnoxious peace and love noises that are meant to like add to the composition and sort of utilizing all of the benefits and hilarity of using recording as like an instrument, right? Is how I'd characterize it. And this kind of more sounds like almost like how you do live. Like it's got like it's still got like the bombast. It's got the force, but it's not quite as overwhelming as the last one. And so was it the decision to kind of like to strip it down part of it, or was it just like that's it? Like, hey, that sounds good. We don't need to dick around with this anymore. Like, what's the?
I think it was a mix of that. Like the last record, exactly, you nailed it on the head. It was a quarantine record, and I had time to kind of just do whatever I wanted. And it was really heavy layered. I did it all myself. And then when we went to go do this record, I kind of don't want to ever do the same thing. So when we went to go do this one, it was exactly that. It was like, well, let's just do how we do live. Like, let's capture that as best as we can with like a little bit of the craziness, but more straightforward to the point.
Right. I mean, it doesn't sound like ABBA, like
yeah.
it sounds like yeah. I mean, hey, nothing wrong with ABBA at all. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it does. It sounds very immediate, but in a different way. Danny, when you're coming together with the drum parts for this, does it immediately make sense to you, like where you're going to put stuff, or do you have to kind of calculate a little more thoughtfully in some areas?
In terms of like the songwriting?
Yeah, when you first bringing in a song, right? Like, and you got to figure out how to approach it, where to emphasize it. I think the drumming is one of the most misunderstood things in rock music, or I guess in music in general. But I find you to be very musically minded with your drumming. Okay. So, I mean, is it coming? How is it coming together? Is it in the practice room? Are you like? Do you do charts? Like, I don't.
Yeah, honestly, it's mostly in the practice room. All the songs on Fat Chance, Clinton and I wrote together in the same room. So a lot of it's like a trade-off of like, maybe there's something that's been in my head that I've just been playing every time I go to the set, and then that can turn into something. Or, maybe it's something where like we're jamming in between songs, and then Clinton comes up with a riff, and I start playing along to that. So a lot of it's just kind of like give and a take of like how we write songs together.
Do you ever have the oh no, that doesn't work there moment of early on where you're like, oh, that was something totally different than I thought it was, because you're hearing something different on the stage versus when you're recording?
Like every time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. Like a lot of Flyzzz songs, I am very much like improvise, and I come from comedy clubs, so I'm very much like, if we just have half of the song, I'm already like, let's just play half of it. Let's just go out, and the next show we're going to play a part of it and just see if it works. And we did that for a while, and I've always done it like that, where we'll take it and test it out in front of people, and then just like playing it in front of people, we both can get a feeling like, you know what, we really don't need that. We can cut the fat of that and
Right.
then that kind of thing.
Well, you see what works, right? You see
Yeah.
what works, and you can come back, and if you're inclined to do so, you can adjust accordingly. And
Yeah.
and there are times that you want to go with the way the audience is going, and sometimes it's like, no, you're going to eat your vegetables. Here you go. This is what this is.
Yep.
Did you feel so, Danny? Since I want to talk to you about the Cancel Culture Club show songs, because when you came into it, you kind of had this crazy recording, right? That's like, okay, like what's happening here? Like, how quickly were you able to sort of decipher that and turn it into something that works for your language? Because when I first, and granted, it took me a while to see y'all, but when I finally saw you, I was like, oh, it seems like these two have been like bonded as a gestalt entity for the end of time, you know? Which is good. I mean, it just seems like you worked very well together, but was it a bit of an adjustment period when you first started in with these songs? Or those songs?
Yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, I think Clint and I got together and he showed me the record in November. And then I'm like very much like straight ahead when it comes to like my mindset of like approaching like my work ethic. So it's like I just like listen to the album basically every day. That's almost all I listen to. And so the songs were just kind of like really burned in. I was trying to burn them into my brain, but also like
luckily it's good.
Oh yeah, so good. Oh yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
I just did.
That's enjoyable, right? But no, I was just trying to like learn the songs.
Yeah.
Because we weren't quite sure which ones I was gonna like track and which ones were just gonna be digital drums, or like we weren't sure quite the approach of like what was gonna go into it. So yeah, I mean, partially it was just like learning the songs, and then also the other part of it was like learning how to serve the songs and still like add like my personality to it.
Right.
Which, you know, you can definitely hear it in you have one new messages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, it took a good like solid month of just like living in that headspace for me to kind of wrap around it. And even after that, like Pretend Friends, we kind of developed live after that.
That's one that seems to have taken on a new life live, where it kind of hits a little harder. It brings out the, for lack of a better term, arena rock of it all.
Yeah.
You know, which I love. Clearly, I love. I mean, I'm all about that stuff. So, but it's like I can see where with the response to that and like how certain things fit together. You just don't know when you're in a vacuum, right? You don't know until you start doing it.
Totally.
And it definitely sounds like a song that y'all have played like a lot in front of people and stages, and you can kind of like gauge like what's doing and what isn't.
You know, it's funny, that song is one that I was really hesitant to show Tom, and I almost didn't end up on the record at all, because I send Tom.
That's the hit, brother.
I know Tom would come down like during the pandemic, and we'd hang out and stuff like that, and it was one that I just didn't show him forever. I was just like, and he kept being like, what do you got? What do you got? And I would show him stuff, and he'd sit there and he'd listen. He'd be like, I like that. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have one. I was like, but it's more like a pop song. I don't know if you'll dig it. And he's like, show me. And then I showed it to him, and he instantly was like, I love this. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to make the record. And he's like, it has to be on the record. And I was like,
That's
okay, it's going to be on the record.
Right laying down the law, letting you know what time it is.
Yeah. And it was great. I'm glad he did, because I was very hesitant. I had that song for a while, and I was like, man, I love it, but is it Flyzzz? But also that kind of is Flyzzz if it's not Flyzzz. Like it kind of,
sure, yeah.
If it doesn't fit, it kind of does fit. And yeah, it's one of my favorite ones to play. So
yeah, and it's something where it's the basic simplicity of the structure and the riff belie, the genius of it, which is just like, it's just catchy. There's nothing wrong with something being repetitive if it's catchy. If it's like, like, oh god, that's the most annoying song I've ever heard. Like, maybe you don't want to hear that, or maybe you do. I don't know. Cherub's got away with it with that song with just the dial tone, which is used to drive me crazy. Because we had when I first heard that record, like we had the landline, and I was like, and I had lots of roommates who were just very negligent. So I was like, somebody hang up the fucking phone, please? And it was like, oh no, that's on the. And it took me like maybe 5 times before it finally didn't get me. But anyway, that's a story about cherubs and my dickhead ex roommates. Oh yeah. So, but like. Yeah, it's one that like sits nicely. You can kind of like a soft intro. It's almost like a breaker too, so you can kind of like have like that between like the more noisy stuff. And again, you don't have to have it just be just a uniform, just kind of thing.
I really like pop music. I like bluegrass. I like a lot of shit that doesn't make sense for the music that I play. So it's like anytime I can get that stuff to work for Flyzzz, because like forever I just wanted to be like a singer-songwriter, like acoustic person. Like I love that stuff. But I can't write that stuff. I can't. Like I could sit all day and try, and every time it's just like, fuck it. And it becomes like an angry an angry or riff thing. So I'm always shocked with like, especially the writing process, because I keep my mind open with everything, but it always tends to go like heavier, scary, rougher edge, as much as I try to put pop elements in every single time, and I will continue to do so.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's hey man, you're talking my love language,
Yeah.
The very first time I heard the band's name was when the volume 14 of Dope Guns and Fucking in the Streets came out, which is the also has Reptoid, Lydia Lunch, Novacron's on that, underrated band, Horries, and someone else, can't remember. Anyway, how did that come to pass, and how do you know Tom? Like he seems so important to the story of Mr. Phylzzz. I think, how do you know Tom?
Dog. Tom is like, Tom's my boy. He's such a good guy. Like, he'd been listening, from what I gather from Brent, he'd been listening to the band for like a year, without any contact with me. He'd just been like studying and watching. And at that point, with the original drummer, we were just kind of playing to be annoying. Like we were booking these shows as a jazz band, but then just getting kicked out. Like we were just obnoxiously loud, kicked out of every place in Cincinnati. There's old footage, if you dig way, way back, where we were getting like constantly shut down, endless constant footage of like, I had a music store then, and we would do shows in the music store, and it would just be like endless footage of cops shutting us down. Like just, it was a band that went out of its way to just disrupt. And I was putting songs out. We were recording them on our own. Then we went and we recorded at this like debunked strip club in Cincinnati that this guy had a makeshift studio. And I traded him gear from the store to do this record. And we were just doing it at that point. We were just doing it for fun and goofing around. And as we were doing it, it started growing and we were taking it more serious. And I got an email from Tom and it said, "Hey, do you have physicals?" And I thought it was somebody fucking with me because of how much I used the band to fuck with other people. And I was
like it was a put on, like it was like, okay, sure.
Yeah, okay, I thought it was a bit. And I emailed him back like, "Fuck you, I don't do physicals." And I then like looked at the email and kind of ran it by some friends, and I was like, I don't think this is anybody. And also like I made it very impossible for people to find the band. It was like impossible to find. I said the name wrong. I always made sure the spelling was weird. And
yeah,
I was like, so somebody went out of their way. So then I looked it up and did some research, and I was like, there's no way this is Hazel. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so I some time had went by, and I just was like, nah, it's somebody playing a joke on me. And then Tom somehow through the ether got my phone number and called me. And he was like, "Hey, I'm Thomas Hazelmeyer. Maybe you know me. I did AmRep and I did all this stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I know who you are."
You were like who?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, I know who you are." And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if you'd be interested in, I'm thinking about doing this compilation I used to do, and I'd like to put one of your songs on it." And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And then it was like, he did that. And then as time went on, he was like, you ever thought about maybe doing I know you don't want to do physicals, because I was very much about, it's in the moment, you hear it, if you hear it, you don't.
Right.
And he was like, I know you don't want to do physicals, but I'd be interested in doing like a CD. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do a CD. Like, this is awesome. And then just kind of grew from there. And from listening to other people like Brent and stuff like that, Brent was like, yeah, man, he was showing people for like a year saying, should I take a chance on this band? Like, I really like them. Should I take a chance on this band? And he showed everyone. I mean, even back then, I think he told me later on, like, he had showed Buzz, he had showed Kevin, like all these people, like, should I take a chance on this band? Yeah. And then ever since then, we've had this like great working relationship where Tom doesn't hand you stuff. You know, Tom, he's not the type to hand you stuff. He makes you work for it. And like,
yes, he does.
I work for it, and I'm really glad too, because it's a great label to be on, in the sense that like, if I want something, I have to make it work. Like, if we're gonna do a record, we have to sell that record. We have to push that record. Right, we got to make that record work. And
which some bands don't seem to realize, by the way. Which is like, it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of an important part of the whole thing, is that if you want people to buy it, maybe you should actually put some effort into it. But I don't know.
Exactly.
Like, making the record isn't the end of the situation.
No, and it's like, we both are we're both business. We're both like, we like the business end. And that was another thing that we really clicked on, where we're strategic with it. We're very like, what can we do next? Like, what's the next step? Like, how can we move the band? And yeah, like, he gives me a challenge, and I'm always trying to supersede that challenge every time. I can't thank him enough. He's been a huge part of the band.
Yeah, and a huge part of the band's story too, which is notable. And I'm glad you brought up the, I guess we'll say, sort of like contrarian nature of the origin is probably the charitable way to put that, because much like there's a few bands I can say like this. I couldn't remember your damn band name for a while, like, at all. Like,
and that was the point.
I was like, it's like there's Z's.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I was like, is it Mr.Phylzzz? Is it like that? And like, and it's like, oh, Fly. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But until you hear it phonetically, and this is definitely an internet age phenomenon, right? When I worked at a record store many moons ago, this was not a problem. You'd be like, oh, did you hear that, Mr. Flyzzz? And then they would go looking for it under F, and they wouldn't find it, you know. But like, I had the same thing. Like, I mean, Juna, I was able to remember, but Donna's band before Juna, Beat Jun Drool, is like, I love them so much, but I'm like, why can I not remember this band's name? And it took me like maybe a year before I finally was like, Beat Drun Jewel, and it's Jue, and it's pure Donna, right? And Donna does whatever Donna's gonna do. Peace and love. But like, that's the age that we live in, right? If someone isn't like sending you like a link with the thing, you know, you're not going to discover it. And maybe sometimes even if you do, you'd be like, wait, what was the name of that? Was that with a K or with a C? Like, because every band name is also taken too.
Yeah, that was the whole original idea. Like, when we had the band, I came from this band that was like legit. It was, I love the guys, but they wanted to be the next Raconteurs. That's what they wanted to be.
Wow.
And I did not. I love Jack White, loved everything he's done, but I
like the idea of the Raconteurs more than the Raconteurs personally. Like, come down next week, Jack White.
And I like
they're good. It's fine.
I think their records are great, but I just don't. There's a Raconteurs. Like, why
they're already doing it. You don't need to be doing that. Yeah.
And that's the whole. It was like I did the opposite of what we were doing. I basically took whatever I was doing in that band and did the opposite. I was like, I'm going to spell the name wrong, so people who really try to find it, like in the age of the internet, it's like they really looked for it. So the people that follow us had to find us. So it was like a better way of tracking it.
It's like the end of a scavenger hunt or something for them.
Yeah. It was like, I found it, and that was the whole point. And I love that idea. And like, again, just coming from like working in comedy clubs and stuff, like I like to mess with people, and I like it to be kind of like, you don't know what to expect. And all of that stuff kind of played into it. And, you know, and doing this like noisier, crazier stuff when I was used to playing like blues-esque stuff, it was just this whole new world that it made me like super excited to just be like, oh, okay, like, it doesn't also just have to be music. It can be like an art project too.
Right.
Like,
it can be both at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a lot of stuff. I love an outfit. You love an outfit, Conan. I know you got some good outfits.
You should see my closet, my friend.
Yeah, I know you got some good outfits. So it's like, I love an outfit, and those guys were not about it. And I was, regardless of everything, I was just like, man, I want like a look. I want a style. I want a vibe. I want like all this stuff. And yeah, and it all came from playing in a really bad Raconteurs ripoff band.
Well, but that's also something that I noticed pretty quickly with y'all as a live band is that, again, peace and love to the beards and the black T-shirts and the jeans and whatnot. But there was an effort put into the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Like you had like the Clinton, you had the sort of gray suit with the kind of open just enough to get a little bit of ventilation. Let's hope. Peace and love, peace and love. And Danny, you had the awesome fringe. I don't know, like what do you go, rhinestone cowboy, like that kind of like jacket. And I was like, oh, cool, like that's awesome. Yeah, and it's it looks interesting, and I think that it's weird that as much as I like love Nirvana, I feel like they started this thing that like, okay, music isn't authentic somehow unless it looks like just some dudes that wandered in off the street.
It's the worst. It's the worst look.
And I'm sorry, y'all. It's 2023, man.
Yeah.
Step it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone needs to be Devo, like,
No.
but it's just like just some effort. And also, like, look, it's a show, right?
Yes. Yes, it's a show. Why do you look like you just got out of bed?
Yeah,
if you're gonna look like you just got out of bed, make it look cool. Like
right, to make that the exact. I think I saw Fruit Loops do like because it always is like an art installation when they play, and it was like a sleep paralysis demon, and she was in pajamas. And it was I was like, there's so much going on here. And then they were like, oh yeah, they do something different every show. I'm like, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was great.
Sets.
It was awesome. But I'm like, I could not. Look, I'm a busy man. And I appreciate deep art. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, that sounds so exhausting to me. But like that said, there's ways that you can step up like a rock and roll show, and also just make it kind of like, oh, what's this? Like you're not gonna forget that. You're not gonna forget like, what are these characters up to?
Yeah.
What's their deal?
The early days we were doing these like one of the first drummers, we were doing these like god awful disgusting dresses that
where's like look like not cool, like grandma dresses kind of like
and they were very hot, and I was very adamant. I was like, we're gonna show up in them, and we're going to make everybody stare at us. That's the point. We make people look at us, we show up in them, we act like it's not a big deal, we do the show, we don't wash them, they smell like shit. It was disgusting. And
yeah, I can smell that statement.
Oh yeah, man. We played Third Man in Detroit, and they were like, "Hey, you guys have to take those off. Like, it's disgusting. Like, you can't wear those in here. Like, it smells so bad. People are leaving." And I was like, "Okay." And I didn't notice it for the longest time because I got used to it, and then a separation from it, I was like, "Oh man, what am I doing to people? Like, this is awful."
Yeah, is that the thing you really want to be remembered for? The most odoriferous band in rock? Yeah.
Yeah, the most smelliest band on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the music, barely remember it. But boy, did they have an odor to them.
God. Stain your nostrils.
No.
Man.
Music was fine. I mean, they literally stunk. Danny, how'd you throw in with Clinton?
Like how did we get together as a band?
Yeah. How did this iteration of Flyzzz come together? What's the story? Is it interesting? If it's not interesting, don't tell me.
Oh,
kidding jokes.
So Clinton and I actually met at a house show in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm from.
Nice.
I was playing with a different band at the time. It was actually my first show ever playing drums, and it was in 2019. And
really?
Yeah. Clinton and I played. I remembered he had his blue, like powder blue suit on, and the previous drummer, also named Danny, was wearing like a clown getup.
As one does, yeah.
And I mean, obviously that sticks in your brain, just like we were talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's this Frank Zappa looking guy? And then like the voice too, I was like, I was like one of the, it's my first time seeing Flyzzz, so I was like, does he always like talk like that? Like, but anyway, then they ripped, of course. So we hit it off after the show and everything, and exchanged contact info. And then, pandemic happened and everything. And we actually ended up both moving to Chicago unbeknownst to each other. And Clinton posted on Instagram a story of Buzz like playing guitar like in his house. And I was like, oh, shit. I like replied to it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, what are you guys up to basically? And he was like, oh, we're tracking for a new album, blah, blah, blah. And so we started talking. And then at the time I was playing with that same band I had moved from Grand Rapids to Chicago with. And I was posting like videos of myself drumming when I'd go into practice.
Right.
And stuff. And Clinton saw that and he was like, yo, would you like to be a part of this album? Like, would you like to come over and listen to it? I'm looking to track live drums. Is that something you'd be interested in? And so, November 2021, I went over to his house and listened to Cancel Culture Club, and it went from there.
Wow. So few things. First of all, so when you say that you hadn't played drums in a band, or you just kind of picked up the instrument? Because that blows my mind.
Kind of both. The first instrument I touched was drums because my cousin was a drummer growing up, and so like he taught me a very basic beat.
Yeah. You get the Ramones beat, you get the disco beat. Maybe you'll do When the Levee Breaks. You got the three. That's the three I can do, by the way.
That's all you need.
I mean, I've seen bands that can't do those three. So
right.
Yeah.
I call myself, and I think y'all will appreciate this. I'm drunk at a party good, meaning people that are drunk at a party will think that I am good, and upon sobering up, will be like, that was not that good.
Like, damn.
Like, oh, he's sick on the drums now.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, Danny, go ahead, please. Sorry.
No, all good.
I wanted to tell a story about me first to get it out there.
Oh no, you're all good.
So like, but that blows my mind because basically you'd only been playing maybe 2 years then, like at that point, like maybe.
Yeah, it's been about 3 now. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything to do during quarantine. Like the band that I was in, cool. We kept like losing our drummer, and I was playing bass at the time. Yeah. And I was just like, man, let's just do a 2-piece. Like I know a basic, like I can play drunk or whatever,
the drunk at a party drumming.
Yeah. Like pull down a beat,
Yeah.
And so, then, quarantine hit. I got let go from my job and I just wanted to play drums all day because it was really fun. I bought my first kit.
Just like Todd Rundgren, he wants to bang on the drum all day.
Yeah. Totally.
But he can't go to work because of COVID.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's true. That's a good point. So you're almost like woodshedding just for like a, was the goal like I'm going to get good at this, or was it just like I'm going to maintain sanity in some way by doing this?
It was just fun. It was just fun.
It is. It's a great release. Like I said, I'm terrible at it. I love doing it.
Yeah.
Can't imagine being good. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it was just fun, and my band and I lived together at the time, and we practiced in the basement. So we just like play all day, and I don't know, just started becoming like good at when you play every day all the time. So then it got really extra fun. So yeah.
You two moving to Chicago independent of each other reminds me somehow of the story of ZZ Top, where they took like 9 months off or something and came back, and 2 of them had grown like long ass beards. Independent of each other. I don't know why. There's not like a 1-for-1 correlation, but it reminds me of that for some reason.
It's great how it worked out because
I
gravitated towards Danny because I have no musical knowledge and I love that.
Okay,
and
sure.
That's just when I write. I'm really glad, like, forever I wanted to be, like, skilled and know everything. And then I was like, I kind of just like making it up and going with, like, whatever I think sounds good. And that was one thing that gravitated me towards Danny was, like, I don't want, like, the guy who's proficiently amazing. Like, I don't want that. And not saying that Danny isn't, but the people who are like super skilled are not people that I gravitate towards, because I want somebody who also is just like doing it on their own, kind of teaching themselves, organically learning, and still kind of new. Because in the sense, like, I'm not new to guitar, but fronting it in a band is a newer thing for me. So it's really cool to like have Danny work just as hard as I do, and we're both kind of like, we don't know what we're doing, so let's just do it together.
Well, and in a way, you're allowed to kind of grow together.
Yeah.
Too in that way. I mean, the first band I was in for almost a decade, and the guy I played it with, me and him basically learned to play our instruments together, right? And like, it was very weird. Playing with someone else was very weird for me the first time I did. I'm like, whoa, this is totally different. But there's a way you can kind of develop like a different kind of instinct or telepathy with each other by doing that, and especially if you're almost like not bogged down by preconceptions. I would think. Yeah,
it's like it's actual real. It's like pure freedom. Like I'm not looking and thinking like, does this fit noise rock? Does this fit this? Is this riff? Like, is this work with this, or does this note go with this? It's like, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, most of the time we're like, let's see if we can write a song with one string. Like, that's like literally the thought process.
Sure, yeah.
That's modern life. That was modern life. Can we write a song that's just one string?
That's the Five Obstructions. Are you familiar with that film? It's sort of like, oh, so you get to. I feel like I used to reference this on this show all the time. People are like, yeah, we know the Five Obstructions, but it's a 2003 film, and the idea was Lars von Trier and something like that. You have to make a. You have to film something, but like you're not allowed to do certain things, or you have to do certain things. Like, it has to be. One of them was you had to remake the film in the worst place in the world, but not show that place.
That's cool. I like that.
One is it has to be a cartoon. One has to like it's just like it's wild because it's like oh wow, this like would be like an honest challenge, even if you were like a really adept filmmaker, to be like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And I guess it goes back to like the oblique strategies, like Brian Eno and all that, that kind of thing as well. But no, I mean, I can see that with what you do, because it seems like it's got a non-malevolent brattiness to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like it's pure. I was in a band for so long that had so many rules. Like, yeah, I mean, literally like a Bible of rules that we had to follow. And I love those guys, most of them. But I just like the rule stuff was like, yeah, this doesn't sound like the record tour. Like, that literally would be like arguments we get in. Like, we would be writing stuff and I would constantly get so mad. And same thing like you, Conan. It seems like you had a better relationship with your band. I was in this band for 10 years as well. And it was just like, I lived in a small country town. These were the only like 4 people that played music. So it was like, I was just kind of stuck forever.
You don't even have options to do anything different.
No. Like the guitarist was my neighbor and the drummer lived 2 doors down. And I met him because my cousin said he had a drum set in his house. Like that's how it came together. And it took me 10 years of kind of like fighting against this thing. And then finally realizing like, oh, this is just how they do it. This is not how all music is. Like,
right. It all isn't the monkeys. It all isn't like people playing instruments based on their proximity to said instrument.
Right. Exactly.
Or maybe it is. I don't know. Who might have judged? But okay. So that's interesting. Let's come back to that. So Danny, but have you played other instruments previously? Than drums. Okay.
Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was like 12-ish.
Okay, so I was gonna say, you must be some kind of prodigy if you picked up drums like 3 years ago that musical with it. But,
no,
I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying I would be annoyed.
Oh well, I'm not, but I mean, yeah, a lot of learning how to play drums was like applied knowledge from learning how to play guitar and bass and stuff.
Sure, got it. So the musicality comes from already having the adeptness at other instruments and ability in other instruments, but translating that in a way. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah. That is, I've seen a few other people that have pulled that off, and I've generally been annoyed by them being polymaths. Like, why are you better at that than like you have any right to be? Okay, doesn't take anything away from me, but it's still annoying. But I mean, it's fantastic too, because and it makes it exciting, right? Because you haven't played drums your entire life, so I would imagine like it's not boring.
Yeah, not at all. I'm still learning so much. Like every week, I'm like, oh man, where's this like Phil been my whole life? You know?
Yeah. Well, you're gonna be
exciting.
You're gonna be playing with Crover every night, so you're gonna pick up a thing or two, even by just accident.
I'm so excited.
We're just gonna rip him off every single night. That's the whole point.
Hey,
we're gonna play Bullhead before they even get to get on stage.
that would be the greatest piss steak ever. So everyone, we're gonna play Bullhead beginning to end. What?
We're gonna play Bullhead from beginning to end by memory. Like, we're gonna try to figure it out as we go.
That would be, even if you just did it for one show, that would be some legendary stuff. But that's to quote Buzz, 1,000-mile walk in the desert for an ice cream cone, though. But,
yeah, for sure.
Okay, yeah. So Clint, back over to you. So then you're coming at things. Again, first time I actually saw you, I was like, "What's this dude's deal? Is this like a put on?" Like, because you like your stage affectation is sort of like a highly pronounced version of yourself that is you kind of like. Did this guy is he supposed to be locked up somewhere? Like, what's his deal?
Yeah,
like what's
it's like
does he have a handler? What's happening?
Right. It's like a bad used car salesman, but also mixed with like a door-to-door Bible salesman that's like really nervous. Like that's like it's very like neurotic. It's almost like a guy who lacks all confidence, but is like very confident in playing music, and everything else he has like zero confidence in, which is a very like, which I especially loved at Caterwall, your festival. It's like very fun to watch people go like, when I talk, it's like they're immediately like, what is happening?
Like, yeah, they're like, what?
Right, and I eat that shit up. I love it.
Yeah, oh
people
sure.
are like, it's very angry. The show's angry and intense and all that, and then it goes to like a little boy, and then it's like, what is this? Doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. And I kind of adopted that over time, where it was to get people's attention.
It stands out.
For people to be like, what is going on? Like, there's no way that this is a real person, which makes them listen and watch longer because they're like, this can't be real. Like, this is not a thing.
Right.
It's become a big part of it, and it's gotten scarier as we go. It's gotten more deranged as we go.
Yeah. Well, characters do have to evolve, right? They have to have.
Yes. By the end of the Melvins, I'll fully lost my mind. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, it worked for Mike Hard. Please. So let's go back with the so Flyzzz kind of being like this more like contradictory art project into being more of a traditional band and making that record. When you're making the Cancel Culture Club record, are you thinking about it in terms of there being a live band?
That one, yeah and no. I mean, like, every time I go with Flyzzz, like, it's such a mix of things. Like, it's so many different things that with that record in the quarantine, I was like, I'm just going to do whatever. Because it's like, who knows if this is even going to end, like this COVID stuff. So maybe I might just be stuck making records at home. Yeah. And it was like a real scary situation. And I had just moved. A lot had happened right then. Like, my dad had passed. I lost my job. And then I had just said, fuck it. I'm going to move up here. My partner lives here. And I moved up, and I just had all this time living in a new city that I knew nobody in besides my partner. And I was like, I'm just going to make this record. And if the COVID opens up, we'll go again. I'll get a new drummer. I'm in this new city, yada, yada, yada. But as I was recording, and I didn't even have the thought of like a band, I was just like, I'm just going to make records because I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to play shows again. So I'm just going to make whatever I want. And if people are free to play on it, so be it. I mean, Tom was coming down all the time. So Tom was like, I'll play on it. Like, I asked him, I was like, you want to play on it? And I became friends with Kevin Romanis, and we were just emailing back and forth. So it really kept me distracted from like all the terribleness of the pandemic for like a good year.
Resting state of existential dread.
Literally. I mean, it was just like,
no, I remember.
yeah. I mean, well, you toured so much that, I mean, it's probably was like,
yeah, but there was a time period where that was not happening, and I was laid off of my job. Great timing. Tour canceled and laid off at the same time. And I was pretty much staring at the wall, like the Big Black song. And that what I leaned into was this show.
Yeah.
And that ended up being something that worked out well for the show, and also for a lot of people that were in similarly anxious times. That was, here's something to like stave off the existential dread for an hour or two.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's awesome. But I mean, I didn't expect that at all. I just was like, no, I have to do something or I'm going to lose my mind. So.
I mean, that's literally what the record was. And, talking to Tom as I was doing it, I mean, he was even hitting me up being like, are you making stuff? Hopefully you're making stuff. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm writing a song like a day at this point. I got a catalog on my iMac of stuff that I just made that, didn't make the record. That's all I would do. I would just obsess over making these songs, and which, eventually turned to be Cancel Culture Club. But yeah, it was just an obsession of, I don't care if it's for a full band. I don't care if it's a 2-piece. I don't care if it's just me. Like, I'm just going to make a record and feature whatever I can, however many people or however many instruments.
Well, and that's a question I actually did have for you. Is that did you always envision doing it, continuing on as a 2-piece, or did you want to, have other players? And I mean, other players are more other personalities, so you see the problem. But and schedules,
right?
That's a big one, especially if you're trying to do anything.
Yes, it's honestly with Flyzzz, it's such a. I'm so like. I let everything just be as it is. Like, I've been saying, if the next record could be a country record, like it could have, a bassist. I don't know. It just depends on like how we feel then. But I've always felt so comfortable as a 2-piece. Like, I love that dynamic of the improv of it all, and like just us two fighting against everything. Like, I love that I can just focus on Danny, and like we can focus the energy that way. And I was played in so long in like a 4 or 5-piece band that when I went to a 2-piece band, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is what I like. Like, this is how I can thrive.
So there's two things. One of which is that there's no cover whatsoever, right? There's nothing like you. So you have to be on it and you have to play accordingly, but also you don't have the ability to be like tuned out or not connecting with your bandmate, because it's literally just you two. That's it. There's nothing else. It's like a high wire act, right? I mean, I mean, God, like I even just like when I've just practiced with someone else, it's like, oh man, I have to really pay attention.
Yeah. and I think that's a big part of it too, Conan, is like, it's not, I was so used to in my first band, I felt like I got really lazy and didn't care about music as much because I was just a singer. That was it. So I just show up and sing the same shit and go on with my day. Versus this one where it's like, okay, I have to be, like you said, I have to be focused. Yeah. I have to be writing. I also have to like fill space or not fill space. Like, there's so many decisions to be made in a 2-piece versus another band where it's like, if I could work with a bassist and we could do it, and we've tried, we tried for a minute. We were like, maybe we'll do a 2-piece tour, and then we'll do a tour with Flyzzz, and now with bass, like that kind of like whole thing. And even then we were jamming with people, and I was like, I don't really like this. Like, just wasn't for me. Not right now. But who knows?
Well, and some bands can pull it off. I mean, Danny, you're wearing a Heat Death shirt, which much loved on this side of the camp as well. But there's another 2-piece where it's like they're very locked in. They're very focused on each other and what they're doing, and it carries over. And especially as a live act, and especially when it's kind of punchy music, where it's music where it hits, it does its thing, and gets out. It's not like 2 hours of like, hey y'all, we're gonna play some Jazz Odyssey. That's Jesus. Where's the exit?
I'm like with Flyzzz, I'm like, I don't think it's ever gonna be over 30 minutes. Like, I don't think our sets will ever be over 30 minutes ever. It doesn't matter how big the band gets. I'm always gonna be like, 30 minutes is enough. Like, that's enough. Like. 45 for Flyzzz, I feel like would be stretching it, but 30 minutes I feel like is enough.
It's interesting how that works, right? Like how it's like certain things are not taxing. Like if you see a hardcore band play a 12-minute set, you're like, great, that's exactly as much as I needed of that.
Yes, exactly. Like there's bands where like Melvin's is a band that I could go watch for hours.
Oh, sure.
I love them.
Yeah.
And they have such an extensive catalog. And there's other bands that I absolutely love that I'm like, I could do 45 minutes less of what you're doing right now. Like,
yeah, that's facts.
Yeah.
It's no name.
That's just how it is. Yeah. It's just how it is. There's plenty of them there. I'm just like, ooh, okay. Like,
well, and there's definitely a dividing line of you want to challenge the audience, but you don't want to you don't want to overtax the audience in such a way that they're that it's going to be a distraction, you know.
Yeah.
And finding that for yourself is good, because then that way, if you can leave people, even if it's sort of like, what the hell, like what was that? Like at least it's a reaction as opposed to like, all right, that band played next, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I feel like that always works. It's like if somebody plays too many guitar solos, it takes away from the magic of a solo. Right. Where it's like, does every song have to have a guitar solo?
No, they don't.
No.
I can make a list of ones that don't need them if you want, but
yeah, and we can compare lists.
Yeah. I was gonna say everyone just so you know, this is the law. No more solos allowed on these songs. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because it should be a tool, and like with a lot of tools played by tools, they tend to get overutilized. And you know what's the saying? When you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
It's very true.
It is. Thank you. I agree with what I said too. So Danny, what was the hardest of the Cancel Culture Club songs and kind of getting into playing live? What was the hardest one to kind of wrap your head around, or was there one that was hard? Was it all pretty easy?
No, it was definitely challenging. I think the title track was probably the hardest for me. It's the one that I thought would be the easiest, but it's just kind of so much noise that I'm just like, where do I come in? Like,
you can almost zone out by accident or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of a little bit harder to follow. And I mean, I could be wrong, Clinton, but I don't know I don't think there's like any click. It didn't seem like there was a click or anything like that ever, which makes sense. So
what's
I was
that?
Like, yeah, I don't play to a click either, but I was just kind of like, oh man, like, you know, where's the hit start, you know? So that one was like actually a little bit harder for me, and I don't even think my drums ended up on that one. I don't know. It might be buried or something, but
no, it's in there.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm glad I made the cut.
Do you do visual cues a lot? Like, not giving away, like a magician never reveals their secrets, of course, but do you do visual cues a lot, or is it even necessary?
It's back and forth. We've been doing this new thing where we do no set list at all, and it's just kind of like one calls out the next kind of thing.
Yeah. And
that's been working like really well because it just keeps it so fresh every night.
Sounds awesome. And also, again, that sounds terrifying, but
that's why I want to do it. It's got to be scary. It's got to like make you nervous, or it doesn't interest me. Like not that I say I get bored, but it's just like I need it to consistently have some sort of challenge. Mm-hmm. And that sort of stuff always drives me to be better. And we did it recently where we were just like, no set list. We're just one person's going to start, and then the next person will start the next. And it worked great. We know where we're going to end. That's it. We know what the ending one is. Yeah. We don't really know what the beginning is. And then it just kind of flows from there. But we know what the end is.
Well, and you two have played together so much that you'll be able to know what certain things mean, right? Like that. Okay, that means that this is the thing that's gonna. Even if you are not able to articulate it aloud, you know what happens next, just because you have that telepathy, muscle memory, whatever you want to call it. Fugazi used to do that, by the way, and I was always like blown away. But I was like, how do they do that?
It's a lot of songs start with rather guitar, or they start with drums. So we're kind of like in a safe zone there.
With a 2-piece, I think it's a lot easier. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's like, what's a sax player up to? I don't know.
It's way honestly.
Careless whisper. Okay.
It'd be kind of sick to have a sax player in Flyzzz. I would kind of like that.
No bass player, but a saxophone player.
Like a bass sax or whatever. Like
yeah.
That'd be
sure.
Maybe that'll be the next.
I feel like I saw a band that did that once, but like at like a warehouse or something. I didn't catch the band name, but I was like, oh, bold decision.
There's the only band I could think that's done something close to that is Soledad Brothers, where they had guitar, drums, and then the dude played like a weird low end sub sax thing. That sounded cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I love like Funhouse, like LA.
Oh, fuck yeah.
LA Blues has that like crazy sax on it. And
cool.
you know, Cocaine Piss, Conan.
Oh yeah.
They had this crazy. There's like this awesome YouTube video of them. They're from like Belgium, and they're playing this festival indoors. And for some reason, like the audience is all like old people, and it's like 3-piece like noise.
I'm already in. Yeah.
In your face, 2-minute songs, and then you have the like sax player up there making insane noise. The singer's just like walking around the audience, and they're all like, I mean, they're like European, so they're all like really respectful of like art and music, and so they're like letting it happen, but you can tell that they're like uncomfortable.
Can you imagine if it was like a retirement home in Nebraska? Just be like, ugh.
That would actually that would rule. That would be a cool like live concert for like elderly people. That'd be sick.
You do a live, you do a live album, but you do it at places where no one is interested in your music.
Zero interest. Yeah. That would be so sick. Like I would love that so much.
Yeah.
Like a nursing home or a school for the deaf, like something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, totally. Yeah.
They're just not into it. They're just like, what is happening? I can feel it, but I have no idea what's happening.
Musical siege. Yeah. No, I mean, and just like, but you got to make sure you get video of just every horrified reaction. And, I mean, that's half the fun, right?
I feel like that would be actually. I'm really into that idea. I might try to talk to Tom about that. Be like, imagine a nursing home, Flyzzz. He'd probably be like, "Yeah, I'm into that."
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it before. I haven't heard that album before. You know, he's got to make sure you get a mic in the audience so you can hear all the trash talk. You know.
Yeah, absolutely hating it.
Yeah, because old people give exactly, zero craps about censoring themselves in any way, shape, or form. So,
at the very end of the show, then you have to be like, okay, it's Q&A time. So anything you guys want to tell us, say to us.
Anything you want to ask? Why are you doing this to us?
When do we eat?
Amazing. It was great. So I want to go over the songs on Fat Chance. Before we do that, Clinton, I did want to ask you about you. You have a storied intertwining history with comedy, and I think that's kind of interesting because there's Fred Armisen, who but way before he was in SNL, I saw him do like stand-up sets, like opening for other bands and things along those lines. And there is a rich history, usually drummers, but which I don't know. It just is. Have
you seen his new special, by the way? His like
the brand new one? No, I saw the drum one, whatever it's called, Stand Up for Drummers or something.
Yeah.
Actually, a bunch of people I know were in there because it's filmed in San Francisco.
I enjoyed that one a lot. I liked that one a lot.
Nice.
I thought it was very fun.
I got a couple of Fred Armisen stories, but I'm not going to tell them on air.
Fair.
Good dude though. Good dude. Tell me about your history with comedy, though, and like what you bring into Flyzzz with that, and just tell me about your history with comedy. I guess we can start with that.
Well, there was when Flyzzz had started, I was very I just had moved down to the city, and we had done some stuff, and then it kind of like Flyzzz faded off for a minute, and I had always been interested in stand-up comedy, and as time went on, I started working at one of the local comedy clubs and kind of worked my way up into the comedy club, and was still doing stand-up at the time. But I had learned like a bunch of just tips and tricks that I feel like really helped the band from working at the club. Because I was kind of in this stagnant space with the club, or a stagnant space with the band. And working at the comedy club and like doing stand-up, I learned so much from comedians about like reading a room and like improvise, trying things, like fearlessness, like not giving a shit. I gave too much of a shit a little too early, because I was very much about like, we're gonna disrupt and all this stuff, but then I got too in my head about it, where I started caring about the wrong things. And
Things that
working
you
at the-
can't control, things that don't matter. Yeah.
Right. And then like working at the club and doing stand up, I was like, oh man, there's like no rules. Like there's literally no rules to art at all. Like there's no rules in stand up. Like the less you constrict yourself in stand up, the better you are. And just working at the club and being around all these comedians, and even Cancel Culture Club, 90% of the people that I showed it to were comedians. They were just comedians I knew that liked metal or liked heavy stuff.
Right.
And they were honest. It was not, they weren't musicians. They just liked music. So I could send it to them and share and be like, what do you think? And my friend Andrew and my friend Blake would consistently be like, I see what you're doing, but you're kind of being safe. Like it would be stuff like that, being like, I see what you're doing, but you're kind of being safe with that. Like if you're doing this wild thing, be wild. Like, why are you afraid to be weirder with it?
Right.
And it was like,
yeah.
oh, okay. He's like, and it would kind of be like, buck up and show up. It would always be the advice. Like,
right.
Go hard. So I took a lot of like doing stand up, and I got to do a lot of cool stuff with stand up. But then it just realized as I was working at the club, I liked more of the background and like club management and helping booking and all that other stuff. And I kind of faded out from doing stand up. But a lot of the core that I learned from stand up, I then transitioned into the new wave of Flyzzz, where I was like, oh, I'm maybe not built for stand up. Like I was thrown on a lot of shows and I did fine. But I was like, I can take these elements and put them into the band. And I feel like that really was a game changer. And I feel like that's when the doors started opening for the band, when I was like, oh, I'm actually genuinely doing it for me at this point. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing it for me. And I feel like that's when everything started coming full circle for the band, where I was like, oh, I'm going to go with my gut with everything. I went with Danny was going with my gut. I was like, I had a feeling when I was watching his videos and I was like, I got to reach out to that guy. Like, that's just my gut saying, reach out to that guy. And here we are.
Well, and with stand up, and it's crazy to me that this is accepted within the comedy world and thus somewhat in, the larger mainstream world, but not really acknowledged within music, that like taking chances. Like literally just like, and that you can be a working comic that isn't a global superstar, and that's okay. Oh, they're just a working comic. Whereas if you're a band, it's like, oh, you're either like a global superstar or a piece of crap, and there's nothing in between. And it's like, pseudo propaganda films like Almost Famous that keep putting this idea in people's heads that everyone's just temporarily embarrassed superstars, and I think that's absurd.
Yeah, it really is, because some of the best comics that I know are not like my friend Andrew Rudick. He is like a hardcore working comic, and he spent the last couple of years like really building and like working. And it came from that aspect too, of just being like, I'm just gonna work. I don't care about the fame aspect. I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna like be funny and enjoy this, because it is that same thing like music. You get those same kind of clashing overs where there's people who are like, you're not anything unless you're selling out arenas. And it's the same kind of thing with comedy. But I feel like once you let go of that mindset and you just work, that lifestyle or whatever you want or whatever your idea of success is will happen.
Yeah, and if you make the journey itself the destination, then you're never going to be disappointed, right? If you like what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right. And I feel like that's my favorite thing about all that stuff, about all art and everything now. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh, I want to be like the biggest thing ever. But now I'm just like, no, I just like making art. And if people like it, that's awesome. That's just the icing on the cake.
Right. Well, let's go through the new one, Fat Chance. We're gonna do a song by song in this. I've been doing this a lot with newer records, and so the idea is you can we'll go through each one of the songs, and you two will take turns. You can tell me a little bit about it, whether it's song title, Clinton lyrics, certain parts, any weird memories from recording, or like cool memories or like since you played some of the stuff live, before that, like any fun stories like live, that's fine also. Just anything that comes to mind, and we'll just go through each of all the songs, kind of give people context for the record.
Sweet.
So Clinton, you're already talking. Why don't you? Why don't we start with you? So Pontiac Grand Am, tell me about that one.
Pontiac Grand Am, that was a song that, again, what we were talking about earlier was just like playing stuff without it being finished. And That was a song that had literally no lyrics. It just had a direction. We knew where we were going with it. And then every night we would just play it and I would just make them up. And that was every single night it would change. And then as we were doing it, like stuff started to stick. But when we got into the studio and I was recording the guitar part, it felt like it was revving. Like it felt like an engine revving. And then like in my brain at the beginning, we were doing the revving. I was like, oh, it has to be about a car. Like it has to be about driving a car, but like what car? And then for some reason it was like, I every time in the lyrics, I kept saying like, God damn. And then I was like, oh, Pontiac Grand Dam. Like that's what goes with, yeah. I was like, that's what goes with it. Pontiac Grand Dam. Like that. And then it was just, I got obsessed with the idea of like, oh, it has to be about obsessing over this cool car. That's not really that cool. That's a Pontiac Grand Dam.
Yeah. Nice. Danny?
Do you want me to start with Dirty Hands?
No. You tell me about Pontiac Grand Dam. So both of you
Pontiac-
get to speak to each of the songs. Sorry, I guess I explained that poorly. I should have like a theme song or something for this bit. I don't know. I should do a lot of things, but I don't.
No, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, Pontiac Grand Dam. I think when we wrote that, I was really into the OC's album, Funeral Solution.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I kind of just wanted like, as far as like the drums go, I was just kind of trying to do like really like groovy, kind of fast hi-hat stuff. So like the verses kind of play out like that. And then, you know, you get the bombastic like da-da, 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 which is fun. But yeah, what sticks out to me about that song is recording it. We did like group vocals.
Yeah. The group vox.
Yeah, and that was so fun. That was like one of the funnest parts of recording. We did it with Trevor Erb, who played upright bass on Insisting, and he's a good friend of ours, and I actually work with him too at my day job. And we also did gang vocals with Fio H, and they were an intern during the sessions. So we were nice. Like, they were very quiet, and we were just kind of
hey, you come here.
Yeah,
come here.
Literally.
Yeah, so that was super fun. Yeah, that's what sticks out to me about that song.
What about the cymbals?
Oh yes, we also obviously it's about a hellish car ride, and so we like threw a bunch of cymbal stacks in like trash and found objects down the stairs.
Right.
Like a car crash. That was super fun too. And my cymbals held up. They're actually trash stacks, so it's all in the name.
That's the official name, or is that your nickname for them?
Yeah, no, it's actually like a minor trash cymbal stack. And you know,
which costs way more than actual trash.
Yeah.
which is free unless you're doing it wrong, as far as I know. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. How about Dirty Hands? We'll start with you, Danny, on this one.
Yeah. Dirty Hands. That's our actually newest song. That one's super fun. Very groovy, very heavy. But it's really straightforward. And there's actually auto-tune in that song. So it's kind of like a little hide and seek egg. Find the auto-tune.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you believe in life after love?
Basically, yeah. I was trying to go at the very near the end where there's like kind of like a little guitar solo thing. I was trying to replicate it with my voice, but I was trying to go as high as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And there was just a point where I couldn't. And then
Taylor, there's no way. Yeah.
No. And then Taylor was like, I could auto tune it. I was like, dog, do it. It'll sound so fun. Like it'll sound like angelic, like a little vocal part.
Yeah, unless you're like Russell Mael in 1977 or Freddie Mercury, it ain't happening, man.
No. I can hit some high ass notes, but those were like I was trying to do like Mariah Carey whistles, and I was like, it ain't gonna happen. Like, but that song was awesome. Really fun to track. I think for that one, I used Taylor had his dad's old Mustang, Fender Mustang, and that was that and a Fender Vibrolux, like a 1956 Fender Vibrolux.
Those are nice, yeah.
Yeah, and it just like fully cranked, and it just gave it this like beefy, nasty low end to it. that again, I just like Taylor Hales. I think I'm saying it right. Hopefully Taylor Hales. He's such a fun engineer and was like such a fun guy to work with that he was very much like, whatever you want to do, I'm down to do it. And
Sure, yeah.
I fell in love with the Vibrolux and I used a Twin a few times, but I tried a bunch of different guitars and I was like, I really like using this Mustang. And he was like, tune it to whatever you want to tune it to. And I feel like a lot of that nasty da-na-na-na-na-na, it's just that little 60s Fender Mustang.
Yeah, they got
great.
that sort of like bouncing off the trampoline kind of.
Yeah.
You know, bang.
yeah. And it's such a goofy guitar on me because it's so tiny, and it was just it was very fun to play.
Anything else for Dirty Hands?
I came up with the lyrics literally the day we did it. Like while we're tracking it, I came up with the lyrics for it.
Right.
So I had the melody, but I didn't have the lyrics, and I feel like that's just how I kind of write everything. Like as soon as we're in the studio, I was like, "Oh, I know what it is now," and it worked.
When you hear it all at once, then it kind of becomes more of a fully formed thing.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get the red light fever, that's fine. You know.
No, and Taylor was quick. Like I like to record really quick, so Taylor got on this motion where we'd cut a vocal and I'd be like, double that, let's do it again. And I'd be like, okay, we'll do that. I'd be like, okay, let's do this. Now let's do a harmony of that. And he'd just be like, just as fast, just right down there. Because when I get in the workflow, I'm just like, I can't stop. I'm like, okay, we can do this. Now let's do this. And he was fast as lightning. So Godspeed to him. He's great.
Maybe is the next song. So Clinton, this is you start on this one. Yeah. It's easier when there's just two. It's just back and forth. Yeah, do this like 5 people, it gets real confusing. I'm like, who was last time? Because you get wrapped up in a story, and I don't know. Maybe I guess I could take notes.
Hopefully, you never have the polyphonics free on your podcast.
You're gonna need to make longer records. Yeah.
It'd be like a 4-day festival.
And it's still going, actually. Yeah, still recording.
Maybe was one that I think I had maybe accidentally played the riff at practice or something like that. We kind of like came up with this idea, the beginning riff, and then the other riff was another riff from another song. We kind of always are ripping stuff apart and kind of trying to glue it together. But that's one that like, I love it so much, but I also can't figure out if I love it live. Like I love the song, but I can never figure out how to love it live. And I've gone through and watched videos where I'm like, that's it. And then other times I'm like, maybe it's not a live song. I can never put my feet down, but I love it on the record. I think it's great. It's such a fun song.
It can be hard to kind of make that sort of that judgment too of like, well, maybe it's not that this song isn't great. It's just that maybe this isn't a great live song.
Yeah. It's one of those where like when we were tracking it and we were putting it all together, I was like, man, I really love this song. And then when we would play it live, I just was like never connecting with it live. But then on the record, I love it. Like, I feel like we put it together so well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of a finicky song, playing it live. I think it's just like Clinton's playing more of a straight like da na 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 na, and then I'm playing it like in a swung feel, and I feel like if we're not totally completely like locked in, if like there's a lot of nuance to that song.
It's gonna kind of fall apart or sway the wrong way.
Yeah, right.
It's like a hammock. It'll just overturn like in the cartoons.
Yeah.
Right. So I, because obviously, when you play live, it's got a different energy to it. So, but I really love it on the record. And I've had, there's been a lot of people who have reached out and been like, oh, maybe he's like my favorite, so it's a great song. But yeah, I agree. It's a little hard to pull off live. Like sometimes we really do. And then sometimes it's just like, oh, like it just didn't hit the way that we want, so.
It's usually my fault because I'm probably at that point my guitar's out of tune or something like that.
That doesn't help. Yeah.
No, and like once we get going, it's one of those. I go into a different world when we play. Like I'm like, so I'm somewhere else. So like once we get going, it's been like recently we're like, let's leave it off the set list for a bit until we figure it out because.
Yeah.
Well, you can always come back.
It'll be a bad. Yeah. If I get pissed off mid set, it'll be a bad set the rest of the time.
Well, and then you're thinking about it now, right? Like, and you're not instead of performing the show and being in the live experience, now you're thinking about it and in your head, and it's going to change the Heisenberg effect. It's going to change. Active observing something changes it.
Yeah, literally, it's literally that. It's literally me living in my brain the rest of the set, being like, did that sound good or did that sound like shit?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, so I hear. Yeah, But.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what some people tell me. Damp is next, and go.
Yeah, Damp is I think one of the first songs we wrote together.
Cool.
Not Insisting was the first one, but Damp was like a mix of the failed second song that we wrote together and the beginning of a third. I think we just kind of like mashed some riffs together. But it was Clinton's idea to start with just the kick, because we had that second part, like the da 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 da, and we were like, man, how do we go into that? And then we kind of just like ended up stripping it back to just the kick drum, and that's kind of like the motif.
It lets it sort of build up a little bit.
Totally. Yeah. That's my probably most selfish part on the record, besides like drumming wise, like because I get a solo. Besides maybe Modern Life. So.
Yeah, but the solo is cool. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do it again, it goes back into that rule of like, if you're gonna be a two-piece, you got to do things different. And it's like, well, yeah, no other band would have a two-piece as a drum solo. Like, it's just so like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so over the top to be like, normally it would be the guitarist being like, oh, I'm gonna riff, and it's like, no, just have the drummer do like an elongated solo. Like, that's kind of cool to me. Like, I like that a lot.
Although I can say I played with Hella a lot when they first were starting. That's basically most of what Zach Hill seemed like he was doing. It was just one long drum solo the entire time. Peace and love. I'm a fan, but it was like, oh, he's just going. It's just like this the whole time. Oh, okay. All right.
And
trips like last week, and it was just like an hour and a half of nonstop drumming. It was fucking insane. Zach Hill's like an alien. This is crazy. It was awesome.
And I there was another band he was in before Hella that we played with, and he did the same thing in that band too, and it was a totally different sounding band.
Yeah,
damn. But it was like, it was great. I was like, whoa, what's this dude's deal? This is crazy. Like, it's definitely like, you notice it for sure, but it's also, you know, you like wouldn't work for Bob Dylan, you know, but or maybe it would. I don't know. You hear some of these like recent records.
That actually, honestly, that'd be kind of sick.
Bob Dylan and Zach Hill.
Yeah, that'd be like such a fucking awesome live show.
Yeah,
of just like Bob Dylan trying to do Times Are a Changin' or
Zach Hill just
Cold Iron Bound. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Maybe we can make that. We can put a GoFundMe together and make that happen.
That'd
that sounds incredible.
Sick. We just got to get Zach Hill to cover a Bob Dylan song.
Yeah,
like that would be so cool.
There you go. Yeah, heard you cover my song.
Yeah, didn't like it.
I kind of wandered into Norm Macdonald for some reason, but you know, whatever. I guess I'm not that far. It's fine.
No, not that far off at all.
All right, we'll put that on a vision board over there, and
I like that a lot.
Clinton, this song, what?
Yeah, Damp. I hate being wet, so Damp is 100%. Dog, there's nothing that pisses me off more than having wet pants.
Like it does kind of suck, yeah.
The bottom of your pants getting wet makes me like a nervous wreck. Like I can't. The idea of it, disgusting. So the riff for this song, I feel like, is really gross, and it feels like you're pulling it out of mud, and that's where like the idea of damp came from. Was like, oh, we'll just spell out the word damp, like. It's just like that's where that came from. And then Danny, when we were doing it in the studio, Danny had the idea because there's I think originally we were calling it like speak and spell, but Danny was like, oh, well, you do say speak and spell for me. He's like, why don't we just add an actual speak and spell to it? And I was like, ooh, I like that idea a lot. So we added like a real speak and spell in the background for all the letters and all that stuff and for the song. So at the end with like the whole swirly nasty effect, I feel like it kind of set all that off.
Sure.
But yeah, that song's just like pure, even like recording the vocals, we were doing like just leaving a lot of like weird ad lib stuff that I was doing. Cause when I do vocals, I kind of like pace the entire time. And a lot of that is just me trying to clear my throat, but it was like left in there and it sounds sick. So yeah, I like that song a lot.
You don't want to be in a situation like, I think it's TVI, where like he just coughs on mic and they just like, that's fine, leave it in.
Well, funny enough, we do that on one of our songs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, that's right, I forgot about that. Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, just leave it. Who cares?
It's all right. Yeah, it adds character.
We have 4-day money. Leave it.
Exactly. We're endorsing this check over to Electrical Audio, and we're gonna
literally
don't have time to spare. So then, what about Modern Life? Right, yeah, Modern Life. Was anything else on Damp? I think that's pretty. That's
that's pretty much it. It's straightforward. It's just coming out of the mud. That's all that song is.
Sure.
ClintonHateBeingWet.com.
To be fair, when you just even said like, the cuffs of your pants get wet, I was like, oh god, that's like I got all like agitated hearing about it.
It's the idea too of like, remember when you were in school and you'd have that kid that would just show up to school sopping wet all the time, and they'd have like wet hair and their pants would be wet. And they'd be sitting in classroom like squishing their feet. I'd go home. I'm not even joking. I'd leave school. It'd make me sick. Like, I hate the idea. Tessa Griefer. I'll never forget her. First grade, constantly
calling it
wet.
Out. Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, I don't care. Like, I hope she does see it. And I hope she's a lot more of a drier person now than she was then, because she was always just sopping wet. And I will never forget her my entire life, because it would make me like dry heave as a kid. Yeah. I hated it. So yeah, that's my little my little rant.
Hopefully she's dried off by now.
Let's hope. Modern
Life is what we're on. Yeah.
Yeah, Modern Life is one of my favorite ones, because it was what we talked about earlier. It was the idea of like, can we write a song that's just like one note, like one kind of like almost like the gent kind of like Limp Bizkit-esque kind of thing. And again, it should not work for a 2-piece, so that's why we did it. And I really like the lyrics with that one, because it's very much a play off like Jeopardy. What is my modern life? Question and answer sort of thing. I was really happy with the lyrics for like that entire song. It kind of, a big chunk of it came out at the beginning, and then again as we went, I was like, oh, what is my modern life is like a question off Jeopardy. And then that got stuck in my head, and I was like, okay, so how can the next verse be another TV game show kind of thing, which was like Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, I love that song. And then when we went to go track it, it was kind of the same thing. Like, I really like Taylor's response to it, because when we set up and we're like, oh, this one's called Modern Life, and it starts with like the Danny doing like kind of trash symbols and stuff like that. Yeah. And then it all kind of comes in. We left the cough. There's like a cough from me just literally coughing while we're tracking guitar. Yeah. And we left that in. And I remember watching Taylor when we did the playback, and there was no mixing yet. And he was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, he was like, I like this. And so, yeah, I dig everything about that song.
Danny?
Yeah, that one's honestly probably my favorite to play live, and it's probably my favorite on the record too. That one came together really fast. I think that was like literally, even some of the lyrics, I think like one practice or maybe two at the most with the lyrics, and then we made like a demo preceding the recording. And Clinton had added like that like the staccato, and I was like, oh my god, that really, with the solo, oh man, it really made it pop. And I was like, oh, this song just, it's in and out, but it's got everything you want in a heavy song. And then the percussion aspect was super fun. Like when we got together before recording, we were like, okay, like how are we gonna tackle? We have 4-day money, so how are we gonna tackle like the songs? Like what order are we gonna do? Stuff like that. Like, let's try to decide like the more general ideas and like what time we'll have a lot of that or whatever. And so we were like, okay, Clinton had the idea of like, maybe instead of doing the roll for Modern Life like we do live, we could do it like we could do it on something else. Like, I don't know what it is, just like a trash set or something. And then, like that intro just came out of like found objects, the trash symbol that I'd thrown down the stairs, a baseball bat. We used a coffee can that I'd had for lunch earlier. And that one was really fun. And it became kind of like a percussion.
That's what I call recycling.
So, yeah, totally. But yeah, no, that one's really fun. I really like Modern Life a lot.
It's supposed to sound like an anxiety attack at the beginning. It should be like just like a big build. Like,
yeah,
it's such a whirlwind chaos happening in that song that it was really cool to like build this like insanity at the beginning and then drop into a Fred Durst riff, a Wes Borland riff.
And then Clinton also made like a really awesome, funny video for it too, with like us as sock puppets, and like my puppet lights Clinton's on fire. It's really fun.
Yeah, that was my piece of resistance that I made for the. I love making videos. That's like my favorite thing. So it was very fun to make.
I'm a fan of the Instagram Reel tour diaries. I thought those were very clever.
Those are coming back, and they're coming even more unhinged.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I disliked the format, and I think I do still, but I like those.
Those
I like.
They're really fun.
But you'll never become rich catering to what I want, just so you know.
They're really fun to make because I don't know, it's those like tour little doc things are really fun because, again, they're not super serious. They're just kind of like little elements, which I think keep it fun. I do have to say, though, Conan, I really like your video that you made, the movie you made.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Which was something that I was like, damn, that is such a good idea. Like an actual like serious doc about musicians touring and how it kind of stinks.
Yeah, like, I mean that's all Eric. Like, but he was what I like is that it's about everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And it's also like, how did this not get made like before? How did
right. But it's really good. Like I really enjoyed it. So I the older I get, the more I get into like documentaries or like people documenting stuff in any sort of way. And I was like, man, this is a really good idea. Like,
and it's got the best title too. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. And then also you're not picking like, you know, usually when you see those docs, it's like fucking Metallica being like, oh, the road is like 60
so
buses.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
They're eating filet mignon every damn night. So it was really cool.
Sometimes it gets in your teeth. Oh, it's terrible. Okay.
Sometimes the bus shower is a little cold.
Awful.
Yeah, and it was just really cool to see like, like seeing like your van and shit like that. And,
you have it stolen multiple times. I could tell the story about how how they used it to steal the ATM, and the ATM like was still in it, and then I was like, what should I do with this? Is somebody looking for this? Like, oh no, that's yours now. And I was like, I don't want this. Like, why would I want this? And I had to go to a scrapyard and have the most awkward conversation ever. And they're like, look, I know this is gonna sound.
Did they take it?
Oh, they took it, but they were like deeply side-eyeing me at first. It was like, look, I got a police report, like it's a whole thing, but yeah, these guys stole my van and they used it to steal an ATM.
It's a very Trailer Park Boys moment if you go up to a scrapyard with an ATM and you're like, do you want to buy this?
Well, and it was funny
useless to me.
Because I was talking to Eric about the just vans in general. And I was just telling that story. That wasn't going to be in the movie. And I was just telling that story. And he's like, that's amazing. That has to be in the movie. I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, I guess it is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's like that kind of like documentary style where it's like I said, I'm not a big fan of like documentaries about like famous celebrity. Their lives are too good. Like, it's like, I want to see the real like working class people.
It turns out everyone loves me too much. Oh, okay. That sounds terrible. Yeah. Okay. it's a really quite the cross to bear, let me tell you. No,
I really enjoyed it though. I thought it was great.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, he did such a great job with it. And I love that he just was like, put it on YouTube and just doot.
Yeah.
And there you go. And I was like, you could have sold this to like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, like whatever. And it just like, nah. It
totally could have gone to Sundance. Like it could have been like one of those like submitted. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, I'm surprised that this wasn't submitted to something. Like, this is great.
Yeah, Eric's a very talented dude. His Man the Bismarck is fantastic. They're great band, great dudes. We're not talking about any of that stuff though. We're talking about what are we on? Insisting now? Yeah, Insisting.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, my bad.
No, that's what you look. Yeah. Even if I was not in that movie, I would absolutely advocate for that movie because it's not about the people that are in it; it's about everybody. And I firmly believe that. I mean, like when Hosey like talks about the end about that, like prove it tours. You like doing this, huh? Prove it. Love that. Think about it all the time. And it's again, it's crazy that you see that in comedy, but you never see it in music. And it's weird for all of us that do it. It's so strange that you just don't. So it's like finally some representation.
Yeah. There's people out there doing it all the time. Not just the big people you see on Instagram with like 50 billion followers and perfect lives and shit like that. That's not realistic for most of us.
I do love that. Okay, so last thing on why am I doing this is that, and you can listen. I did a Protonic reversal with Eric when it came out, but like the thing that actually motivated him to just push the button is Dave Grohl announced that he was doing a touring documentary, and he's like,
"Really?
I'm just gonna finish this and put it out." Like that's what actually he was just because it was at the point it was like, dude, this is gonna become your like My Bloody Valentine's second record or something, like or third record, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah,
like you're just never gonna get it done because like you're just constantly making it better and revising this. Just put it out there, and he totally did, and for the better. And what's funny is that nobody even remembers that Dave Grohl documentary anymore.
No, I was even trying to rack my head thinking like, what? Like,
I saw it, and while I was watching it, I forgot it. That's how good it is. Dave Grohl coming up next week. Anyway, Insisting is the next song on your record that we're ostensibly talking about. Yes. I think Danny, you starting this one? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a cattywampus over here. Yeah, tell me about Insisting.
All good. Insisting, speaking of Dave Grohl, Insisting was the first song that we wrote together, and it was like kind of when we first started playing it, we were like, this is kind of like the most Nirvana-esque we've sounded so far.
I can hear it, yeah.
But it wasn't like intentional. It was just kind of like, oh, it kind of sounds like, it could be on In Utero or something. But I think it's like our most like in your face song, probably definitely the most like punk, I guess. But then it's got this crazy like jazz break in the middle of it on the record, and that was Clinton's idea. And we just went in and did like I was talking about my buddy Trevor earlier, our buddy Trevor. He like rented an upright bass. He hadn't played upright. I think he'd like fiddled with an upright bass once or twice before, but he doesn't play it. So he rented a upright, just like learned this riff and like came in, and we all like worked it out together in the same room with like one mic, like Sun Studio, old school.
Yeah, totally.
So that was really fun. And it really breathed a lot of life into that song. So we've been playing that song the longest out of all of them. So
they actually still record music at Sun Studios, but it's like after the tour, so it's like after hours. And
I didn't know that. We went to Sun Studios, Clinton and I.
Yeah, did you do the tour? Yeah, tour's fun. That's good. I mean, you kind of only need to do it once, but yeah, I know a band that recorded. They recorded like a single at Sun Studios, and it's
that'd be fun.
So you could do it.
Yeah, I might have to do that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, I assume they're still doing this. I mean, I haven't thought about it in years, but like I was like, God, that'd be kind of amazing just to say that you'd be like, yeah, we recorded at Sun Studios and BD, same place as Johnny Cash and Elvis and Carl Perkins and all them. Oh yeah, and BD.
Do you think they'd let us throw cymbals around?
I get the feeling they might be a little more precious about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Call it a hunch. So Insisting, Clinton, tell me about it.
Yeah, same sort of deal. What I like about that song is again is a Flyzzz thing that I like to do is create a lot of it's the comedy world thing. Build it up, pull it back, and it's that kind of thing. Like you get them all stirred up and you pull it right back and you give it to them even bigger. It's like the catch and release kind of thing. And that was something that stuck in my head like crazy when we were doing that song. I was like, there has to be a moment where like everything is stripped away, like the wind is taken out of you, and it's just it makes you pay attention. Right. It's almost at a point where you turn the volume up thinking it's too quiet, and then it gets incredibly loud again. But yeah, when we were tracking that, I was very adamant with Taylor. I was like, I want to do it exactly the way they would do it in like the 30s and 40s. Like one mic, stagger us in the room, line us up the right way, and we just kind of like look at each other and get it. And, you know, as few takes as possible where we're not getting in our head. It's just very organic.
And what a contrast between that and the record before that too, right? Where it's all just like the most modern technology possible to do everything.
Yeah.
By necessity. So
yeah. And then just like this idea, yeah, I was obsessed with it. And we literally just dropped it dead in the middle of the song. Like it was just dropped in the middle, and then it comes out with the rest. But no, and that one too, like doing the vocals for that one was really fun because I like to do a bunch of different voices anyways. So it was fun to do like really high nasally stuff along with like this low end stuff. And then especially doing the jazz part, I went back through and recorded kind of like low end, like talky whisper stuff. And I really like the vibe of that song. I feel like that song has the most guitars because I was like, oh, it's got to be insane amount of guitars. Yeah, just stacked after stack after stack after stack. And that one I used a little Esteban amp, like one of those. Do you remember the Esteban guitars that he was like selling?
No.
Okay, so you know who Esteban is? He's like the Spanish guitarist guy. He was selling these guitars on like QVC, and my dad's a bluegrass player, and he was like, "These are better. They're better than Martin's. I've seen the commercial. They're better than Martin guitars." And he ordered one, and I was like, "Dad, there's no way an acoustic guitar is good if it comes with like an amp. Like it's just not."
it's a telltale side, right? It's just like any microphone with a switch on it. It can't be that great of a microphone.
No. And it came in the mail, and he was like. And he's a Martin guy, and he was very like, "Fuck you! This is gonna be the best thing." And he took it out of the case, and the guitar had no back. It like they never even glued the back to it, and he was so pissed off that he just like he threw it away, and we kept the amp. So that was my amp since I was a kid. I learned
that was the amp that was paired with the no back guitar.
Yeah. And we made fun of him forever about it, but I still have the amp, and I try to use it on everything that we do, and that made the cut for that one. It just sounds like chainsaws. It's a little 4-inch speaker. It's blown to shit.
Yeah, those little weird amps can actually sound kind of cool recorded because it's like, what is that?
Yeah, it's real nasally, like real gross sounding.
Right, which if that's what you're looking for, great.
It's great. Not good for acoustic though. Sounds like shit.
Yes, it sounds like a strange pairing with it for an acoustic guitar. Back or no, frankly. But,
go at some point if you get leisure time, go watch the old Esteban guitar commercials. They're insane. There's no way.
There's commercials.
Oh yeah. My dad was such a drunk that there's no way that he watched it. He was just drunk watching it and being like, "Yeah, this rules."
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Danny?
Yeah, I mean, closing notes on Insistent, I also played like a crazy old jazz kit. It was like
nice.
40s, like, I don't know, like Slingerland or something. But I also don't know how to play jazz drums at all. So it was very like fast and loose, and it was really fun.
Right.
So, but yeah, the brushes make an appearance. That was like our PJ Harvey rid of me moment, I guess.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's what a monster record, right?
Yeah.
Jeez. Pretty good if you're into that kind of thing. You know, I am.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. Anything else? Because we only got one more left.
Yeah. Pick Scrape.
Yep.
That came out of like kind of something we do live is like an improv situation. I don't
Wait, you're
know.
telling me a 7-minute song came out of an improv? Sorry, go ahead.
No, we wrote that note for note.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sitting there with like sheet music.
Yeah. That's where 3 of the days were used, was just writing that song. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else was in one. It's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Danny, please.
No, all good. Yeah, that's like our magnum opus.
Yeah.
But no, we just played an improvised bit and then took it and copied it and reversed it. So that's where all that crazy like backward reverse guitars and the cymbals and everything comes in.
The backmasking.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, that song, it was literally, I had the idea where I was like, yeah, we're just gonna, and we had everything set up already, and I just told Taylor, I was like, this is just gonna be a song itself, so just push record and we'll stop when we stop. And we went down, we did the 7 minutes and 7 seconds of just whatever. And I just literally went upstairs and I was like, now take it, reverse it, and put it underneath the original one. And he kind of gave me a look like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
all right. And then as he was playing it back, he was like, oh, he's like, did you guys time this out? I was like, nope, it's just dumb luck. So it just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Because it's reversed. And it was a trick I did on Cancel Culture Club, where if I wanted it to sound really insane, I would take like Kevin's bass parts and then I would fully reverse them and like weird sections, and then it would just sound like, Kevin's playing with a slide anyway, so it just sounded like even more crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's David Lynch stuff suddenly.
Yeah.
In a good
Yeah,
way.
but there's a cool part too in that song where like we found a groove at like halfway through or something, or 3/4 of the way through, and it just weirdly like lines up, and it was kind of a cool little surprise. But yeah, there's like this crazy, when the guitar kind of first comes in after the initial scrape, it just sounds like Butthole Surfer's tone. Like, it's crazy. It's fun.
No, I get that. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But
so there you
And
go.
then Tom made the art.
Yeah. Let me. I'll throw that. I mean, for folks that know his work, it's very clearly Tom Hazelmeyer art. But yeah.
I love it. I mean, the moment I don't give Tom any notes for art. I don't give him any direction.
Yeah.
And we gave him the title that Danny had came up with. And I was like, it's called Fat Chance. Here's the record. Listen to it and do your thing. And then he was like, I have this idea of like, maybe like a real fat naked person. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, that sounds great. And then, Tom did Tom. And I was like, this is perfect. This is like everyone that I grew up with. So this is an amazing tribute to them.
Fantastic. So there you go. That's the record. That's Fat Chance. Let me throw up the tour dates for people that are visually oriented. Let's see if I can do this. No, I can do this different. Here, I'll do some studio magic here. You guys driving out for the first show? Like what's happening?
Yeah, we got to drive.
Better start now.
I know. we leave on the 20th, and then we'll be out there by the 24th.
This is a pretty burly tour, and you got not just Melvins but Boris playing a classic album as well. There we go. That's way better. There's going all over. I'm not going to say all these aloud. I'll put them in the show notes and all that, but I don't have enough time. We'll still be here, and you'll be late for the tour if I talk these tour dates out loud.
So many dates. Like when Buzz called me about it, and he was like, it was like 9 a.m, and he was like, hey, do you got a second? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, are you interested in doing some shows with us? I was like, yeah, Doc. Of course I'm interested in doing some shows with you.
Yeah.
And he was like, how many could you do? And then I was like, oh, this is like a game of poker. And I was like, how many can I do? And I was like, let's just say I would do every single show you tell me to do. And he was like, cool, great answer. It's 40 something. So he's like, I want you to do all of them. He's like, I was really hoping you were going to say all. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to overstep. I wouldn't want to be that guy. But he was like, no, I want you to do them all. So it was great. It lined out perfectly because we were starting to figure out what we were going to do for fall, which was probably going to be another like run like we did last time, which is like 35, 34 days, like we did last year. And yeah, this ended up perfect. And honestly, when we were at your festival,
sure.
Yeah, I swore to Buzz. I keep my word, and I swore to him. He was like, "Don't say anything until my team reaches out to you and we finalize everything." And I had the tentative dates, and you had mentioned, you were like, "We should do some shows," and I was like, "God, I want to tell Conan so bad this is happening," and I was like, "But I can't."
I knew this was happening, but I didn't know you guys were doing it. So
okay.
so I knew that like they were doing that, but I didn't know. But then I didn't know. I was like, oh, okay, so they're on that. Cool, awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
So it's going to be really fun. I'm excited to meet Boris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be at the Milwaukee show, which is
sick.
Not that far away from. We should have been in this view though. Why did I not do this view? This is the better view. You can see everybody. Man, get it together, Neutron. Jesus.
That's okay.
Mr.Phylzzz band on Instagram. There's a Facebook. There's I saw there was a Twitter even. I was like, oh, I logged into X and I. I'm sorry, like that's just objectively stupid, right? I mean, that's just like, dude, like, really, like, there's no one around him to sit to. Dog. That ain't
let it go, man. Like, it's such a. Twitter was cool. A tweet? Yeah. That's fun.
Tweet's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use Twitter at all?
I used to. I'm finding myself not.
I don't.
Not really doing that anymore.
I log in and I'll see like stuff that we get tagged, and I don't use it. I use Instagram, and that's mostly it. I'll use the Facebook group. But that's
Instagram is like the least worst of all of them somehow still. Even though Facebook is doing their darndest to not, or Meta, whatever the hell they're calling themselves.
Yeah.
They're doing their darndest to like make it not great, but
there's just too much. I just want to just put out stuff. I don't want to have to post 1,000 times a day on 1,000 different platforms.
Yeah, you're not on Threads or
no, I'm done. I'm
Truth Social?
No, none of that. None of that. Though, what is that? Is Truth Social that like weird alt-right?
Yeah, where you can instead of retweeting someone, you retruth them. Amazing.
Okay, I'll make one of those accounts.
Like you could not make up something funnier if you tried. I'm like, you're gonna retruth some.
That is so stupid. I will definitely make a Flyzzz.
Astounding.
We do have a Pornhub account too, and that's not a joke. So I made one of those.
So follow them Flyzzz guys on all of those various things, and of course, catch up with them on the what's it called? What's the tour called? Twins of Evil tour.
Twins of Evil. Yeah. Which everyone keeps saying was a Metallica tour, and no one gives a shit. Yeah. Everyone's like, that was a Metallica tour. Cool.
All right. Well, you'll be hearing from their lawyers, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Great. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing it. Last question of the show. This is a canned question. You can choose to interpret it however you like. Both you'll go. Danny, I'll start with you. Why do you do what you do?
Because it's fun. That's
succinct.
It.
All right.
Yeah.
Because
Clinton.
if I didn't, I would fully lose my mind. That's literally the truth. I have nothing else to do but this. This is all I can do to exist.
Well, very good. You're going to be doing a lot of it. So, be ready. And I'm excited for you guys. And I'll see you in a few weeks. So
yeah, see you in Milwaukee. That'll be fun.
And let's see. Anything else? No, that's probably it. Thanks
we have tour vinyl.
Oh yeah. So you got stuff for sale. So go attend the show and go to the merch table and all that.
Specialty tour vinyl only for the tour that Tom made. That's super sick, glow in the dark, crazy looking.
Which will probably not last very long, I would imagine.
No.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's Clinton and Danny and Mr.Phylzzz. I'll play us out with Pontiac Grand Am. We talked about it enough. Here we go. There you go. Pontiac Grand Am. Mr.Phylzzz. That's off the record Fat Chance. You can find that. Mr.Phylzzz. PHYLZZZ.bandcamp.com. You can also find the merch table at the Melvins and Boris shows. Twins of Evil tour. Boris is playing the Heavy Rocks album, and Melvins are playing the Bullhead album, and more.
Are we going?
Should be a great time. Like I said, I'll be at one of those shows. This has been Conan Church Protonic Reversal. Thank you ever so very much for listening to it. This show airs usually Thursdays. 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming on Twitch, Radio Nope. Oh, not Radio Nope anymore. No, Twitch and YouTube. And, yeah, all up in your face. Archives available for free always. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. ProtonicReversal.com. Always free. But if you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner and help support the show, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will gladly achieve that goal. And we get to help support the show as well. Thanks to everyone for sharing the show around on the social medias. On your Truth Socials. And liking, subscribing to your platform of choice, leaving a review even. Lame as that sounds, it does help people find the show, so it's deeply appreciated. Lots of good stuff coming up. My card this week, Thrall, Godbullies, returns. I have something amazing next weekend, too, so stay tuned. Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, dark and lonely.
Check you later.
I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey! This is a real goddamn emergency!